Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney here. And you know, I like to stay global. So we are jumping across the pond. But I've never heard this story, even though we're in a coaching group together. So I'm very interested to see how you got stuck. Where are you at again?
I'm in Athens, Greece.
Athens, Greece. Oh, we feel so sorry for you, Miss McGuinness. We feel so sorry for you, but we have Julieanne McGuinness. So we know each other a little bit, but in typical Austin Linney fashion, we get to know each other on the podcast. So what I like to do with my guests is kind of let them tell their story where they want to, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay. Ooh, we have had zero prep for this. So I'm going to just flow with it then. So my name is Julieanne McGuinness. I just waved on a podcast. And I live in Athens, Greece right now. And my life is a total 180-degree turn from what it was 2 years ago. Actually, 2 years ago, last month, was the beginning point, I would say. I was working in the States. I had been working in corporate America for 17 years. I had done all of the things to move up the corporate ladder, and I had worked for some amazing people, wonderful, wonderful business owners doing project management, cosmetic medical sales, recruiting. I ran a small business consulting company for a while, and ultimately was the director of operations and then the director of sales for a real estate team doing about $50 million in revenue every year. And I was 31 at that time. So I hit a wall. I was in a relationship for 10 years with a wonderful, wonderful man. And I had the American dream. I had 3 cars and a boat and a 4-bedroom house on 3 acres and made my own schedule for work, managed 15 people, loved my colleagues, loved my people, but wasn't happy. And felt this deep sense of that I was missing something. And living that life, it's interesting, people tell you money doesn't buy happiness. Not that I was ever like wealthy, but they say money doesn't buy happiness. And when you don't have money, it's easy to be like, yeah, okay, it's easy for you to say when you don't have money. I'm very grateful that I found myself in a position through my own choices, but I found myself in a position fairly young where I realized that if I kept going, I could see the rest of my life and how it was going to play out. And I was like, gosh, what's really going to change from this point forward? And if I'm not happy now, how could I reasonably expect to be happy when I'm 60? So I went on a personal development retreat, a retreat that I'm now part of. I do their discovery calls. It's a phenomenal program that I very much recommend to everyone in the world, especially if you're in corporate America and you're kind of a little bit lost personally. And as a result of the retreat, I broke off my engagement, which was extremely difficult because he still is a wonderful man. And I decided that I needed to radically shift my life. So I quit my job, left my relationship, and decided to travel and find myself. And I was planning to go to Bali and meditate for like a month. It's very interesting how this has kind of come about. And I wanted to do a backpacking trip across 8 countries. And on my way across the pond, the flight to my first destination, which was Australia, was going to be about 40 hours of traveling with 4 layovers. And I said, oh my God, this sounds miserable. So I said, okay, where can I go halfway between that has a similar climate in February so that I can go on a 10-hour flight, spend a couple of weeks, do another 10-hour flight and kind of to go there. And the cheapest flight was to Greece. And that is the only reason I made it here. I was supposed to be here for 12 days. And on the 10th day, I was meditating on a mountain and I had an overwhelming peace that said, don't go. So I stayed like a crazy person. I had $2,000 of non-refundable flights booked. I didn't speak the language. I didn't have anywhere to stay. All I had was a backpack. And I ended up backpacking through Greece for 10 months last year during COVID, mind you. So I completely fell in love with the country, deeply fell in love with the country. And over that 10 months, realized that I want to spend the rest of my life here. So
wow.
I went to Germany, Mexico, back to the States, sold my house and moved here. That's the short story.
Jesus Christ, this is perfect. This is like this is right up my wheelhouse. You know, the joke with me is if you coach with me, if you're a client, a couple things happen. 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to leave your job. The second thing, I'm going to make you travel, and you're probably going to sell your house. Like, that's the joke. It's like, I met Austin. He's going to make me, you know. And it's but a couple things there stand out. The main reason that I provoke that in people is I want them to stretch themselves past their comfort zone, but also I want it to wake up things of them that are dormant. Like, I think that we spend most of our life with a lot of our dreams dead on arrival, right? Because we don't even believe that we can. And I would say that 90% of my clients are you. They have the life, have the cars, have the house, have the job, and they are so not still happy. You know? And so, are you happy now?
I'm the happiest I've ever been.
Do you long or do you miss any part of who you once were?
This is a very interesting and beautiful question. And the way that I describe my life, I actually had this conversation with a friend of mine last night. When I look back at my life, I don't resonate with that person in the way that many people resonate with a memory of themselves. I think of my life as if it was written by the same author, but it's different books with entirely different leading characters. And the only similarity is the person who wrote it. So when I look at my childhood, there's one book or maybe a series of books with one character. And then I get into adolescence and there's another series with another character. And then I have my early adult life where there's another series. And then I had my 10 years with my ex, who this was just a very trying time in my personal life, but a really beautiful relationship with him. And this relationship actually paved the way for me to be the person that I am now. It's the most closely correlated to who I am. And yet I'm such a beautifully different person now. But I still feel a tie of, mostly it's gratitude, I would say. I have a deep sense of gratitude. I have a great deal of love, admiration, and respect for my ex, who is still a good friend of mine. And so there's remnants. David White actually has an incredible quote. I'll try and paraphrase it. And I don't have any part of me that misses my old life now. But there's this one element relating to my relationship, because I'm clear that we were not meant to be together forever. And in a way, I still feel that he's a soulmate of mine because of how much I love him as a human. And this quote says something to the effect of, grieving a breakup is not so much about grieving the end of the relationship, because by the time that the relationship ends, it's you kind of know that it's over. What you're grieving after that is that even though you know that you will probably find happiness with someone else, and it could be even more beautiful than what you could have had with the other person, you're closing the door to the particular shade and coloration of the future that you believed you would build with that person. And you know that no matter how beautiful your future will be with someone else, it will never be the exact tonality that you've walked away from. And there's a respect to the grieving that is important to do in relation to this. And so I look back on my 10 years and the life that we had really built together. We had built such a beautiful life. And I look back with such gratitude. And I still have a feeling of, it's not sadness anymore, but it's nostalgia of the beautiful life that in a parallel universe I continued. And at the end of the day, we're such complex people. I mean, right now, what I do now is I'm actually a dating coach. This is what I do. I help people, men specifically, actually. I work with women as well, but it started with me working with men, which is a whole nother story. But I do this, and finding your identity and being able to walk fully into a fully expressed version of yourself is absolutely essential if you intend to build a dynamic and fulfilling partnership with another person. And so many people fail to pay attention to that foundational groundwork, and they end up attaching to people who are connecting with their wounding, or they're walking and living a life, as I'm sure many of your clients have experienced, where they're living this life that society has prescribed for them, but it's not actually in alignment with who they desire to be. And so you end up creating a perfect relationship through an identity that's not your own.
Wow.
And no matter how good the relationship is or a person is, it won't result in ultimate success because there's no alignment there.
Now, one of my favorite quotes is temporary people leave permanent lessons.
Absolutely.
And what I find a lot, because I went through a divorce in the last year and a half in 13-year marriage, and I'm in a new relationship now, which is, it's interesting to try to be a boyfriend again, because I haven't been one since like 20. So I don't even know what that looks like anymore. That's a 5-hour conversation for another day.
Services, Austin.
Anybody that let's say they've lost a love or they've broken up with somebody, right? And I ask them a simple question. Do you actually miss the person, or do you miss the idea that you formed in your mind of the life that you thought you were going to leave?
Yeah.
They're missing the vision that they had for their life. And one of the reasons is that we live in a society where we want to try to live our life in absolutes. Like, this is the only job I'm supposed to have. This is the only partner I'm supposed to have. I'm only supposed to live here. That's not the way the world works. If
I don't have an option, right? I'm only able to live here. This speaking.
Because
disempowering language.
That is the thing, is that you're complaining like you don't have an option to pull the ripcord. Now here's what I will say where we connect on this. And I think that you'll find and I'm still forming my idea around this concept, but through drug addiction, alcoholism, divorce, losing money in business, like all those things, I've had to blow up my life and rebuild it like 7 times, hence the name of the podcast. But what I try to tell people is when you take an atom bomb to your life, there's also some peace about it, because it blown so to shit that you can take what you want and leave the rest.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, is that what
Absolutely.
you feel like happened to you? Is like, there was such a shift. It was such a change that the pieces of you that you did love, that you were happy with, you got to take those with you into your new life and start constructing this new world that you're living in currently.
So I actually didn't do it that way. And
Okay.
I'm shifting in the chair. So what I realized was that my life was maybe not necessarily so out of alignment, but I had no idea what alignment looked or felt like.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I set out to travel last year, I made I don't know how I would say this, an unintentional pact with myself that I would do anything that presented itself to me, so long as it didn't go against my values. And then a secondary, what even are my values? So I scrubbed it clean. Like, what are they? The blank tablet, Magna Rosa. What is it called? It's a philosophical term, but I did
So
blank.
There's some, I would
Tabula
imagine.
Rosa.
So you have to understand, I've spent some crazy nights in my time. I would imagine if that's the case, there's probably some interesting moments thrown in there. Which
There's a book coming.
but here's the rub with that. Through that exploration, right, of life in general, you find out what does and doesn't work for you. That's exactly. The issue, is that people don't even know what does or doesn't work for them because they're living in the social norm.
Right. And I have complete confirmation now. Complete. I haven't made a single decision in 2 years that I regret. I have had decisions that if they present to me a second time, I will do them a different way. But I don't regret the decisions that I've made, because that decision actually provided me concrete clarity on my alignment, my vision, and my values.
Okay. Oh my God. Okay. You just hit something in my nerve. So about 5 years ago, we were in Austin, Texas with my ex-wife, and I was making tons of money, working, living in a great city, and I was just miserable. I just couldn't, like, it started becoming sweater vest in fucking douchebag city. And I was just like, we were in Napa for a week, and I came back and I was like, I'm done. Like, I was literally at work on a Saturday, and I looked up and said, I'm fucking done. We're moving. I don't know where. And I went to her the next day and I said, hey, 3 cities. I said, Houston, Dallas, Nashville, pick one. We're leaving in 3 weeks. And we literally picked one. We left, right? I fucking hated Nashville. Like, fucking couldn't stand it, right? And we were only there for 13 months. And there was a lot of turmoil through that 13 months. But here's what happened. I no longer had to sit in San Antonio and go, what if Nashville would have worked out? And I would have played that game for the next 50 years. So what you're saying is, through exploring and pushing yourself, now you're firm. Like, this is what I want. I've done that. I'm not questioning myself. There's so much power to that.
Austin, at first it was firm and it was power. And now it's calm, surrender, and peace.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I just felt that come over me for you to say that like that.
Feel the waves.
because that's what everybody's seeking. Should I be here? Right. My mom said something to me. My mom, we don't talk all the time, but we had a nice 2-hour conversation the other day. And she said, my hope for you is that the number one thing, you're smart as fuck. You'll do whatever you want to go do. It's one thing. And this message keeps coming up this week. We are a prisoner to our own visions. All my clients, I want to be here, but I haven't even gone here yet. And so she said, until you learn how to be present, you'll never be happy.
Yeah.
100% happy.
Yeah. Last night I was telling a friend of mine, we had a really, really amazing, deep conversation. And he said, do you ever get to a point where you don't have to think about anything, where you can just be there and not have thoughts? And, women struggle with this much more than men. Biologically, psychology proves this. Like, this is not
sometimes I just stare at the wall after a full day,
Right. But I have found that since I moved to Greece, my morning coffee. I wake up. Coffee's big in Greek culture.
Oh yeah.
It's very big. It's one of my very favorite things about the culture here. You can go to a cafe and there will be old men sitting paying tavli, which is backgammon, and they'll just be drinking their coffee for hours. And this is non-existent in the States, right? If you go to a cafe and you see someone without a computer, you're like, what's wrong with you, you degenerate? But here, if you bring a computer to a cafe, they're like, what is this person doing? Like, this is for socializing. It's the most beautifully backwards and properly forwards culture. I love it so much. And I could go on about my love of Greece, but I was saying, in the morning, when I have my coffee, I live on a rooftop, and I'm dog sitting, so I'm in a friend's apartment right now, but I live on a rooftop and I have this beautiful view of the mountains. My apartment is tiny, like very small apartment, but I have a huge roof. And I go outside and I sit on my rooftop and I just stare at the mountains and the apartments and the landscape of Athens. And for probably roughly 30 minutes to 2 hours every day, I journal, I meditate, I sit. Sometimes I think, sometimes I put on music. Usually I just sit in silence. And old me 2 years ago, corporate, Julieanne would have been like, how can you spend an hour of your day just sitting? You're wasting your life. And this hour of my day on average is pure bliss. It's pure bliss and it's pure peace. And I savor my coffee. I savor my evaporated milk. The Greek people will tell me one day you need to not drink milk in your coffee, but okay, I do now. I savor the joy and the gratitude that I have created this life and that I live in this country that has stolen my soul. I mean, I am hopelessly and I mean, hopelessly in love with Greece.
Mhm.
And I sit in this gratitude and I can feel my energy changing. I can feel my cells energizing and vibrating. And I get into this mode of just building this energy up and this gratitude. And I find myself, my people in Greece will tell me they're amazed. I walk down the street and I meet people in the middle of the street who end up becoming like family to me.
Mhm.
I go to a cafe, having a glass of wine, and the person sitting at the table next to me ends up talking to me. And a week later, we're taking a trip to the vineyards in the Peloponnese. This happened last month. I mean, and these are not like romantic connections. These are just people that I meet. And a lot of people don't believe in energy or are not really into energy. And I don't have a history in energy. I've done a lot in the last couple of years, but I was not a believer in energy. I was not. I came from a very different upbringing, a very different background, and the experiences of my life. And I can share a little bit even about Greece. When I was in college, I was originally studying theology, and I had a full ride scholarship to a school in Chicago. And through studying theology at a Catholic university, I realized I am not Catholic and I don't believe in this. And so I left my 100% paid scholarship and found myself back in Florida. And I told myself at the time I had to go to a state school, but of course I had the choice. I know the difference in that now, but that was the path that I chose to move into. Well, the state school doesn't have a theology program. I decided not to leave Christianity, but to leave Catholicism. But they didn't have any sort of program that was equivalent to theology. It was either comparative religion or philosophy. So I decided, maybe I'll become an attorney one day. I'm very intellectual and I like arguing, or at least in my past life I did. So I decided to get a degree in philosophy. This was the first connection to Greece. I was enjoying my degree so much, I started taking Greek lessons in my spare time before class when I was 19. I forgot about this for 15 years. Fast forward, my ex and I had gotten engaged and we had decided we wanted to get married, and we had all sorts of things that were kind of factors that were making this difficult outside of the two of us. And I decided, you know what, let's just elope. Let's elope in Greece. This was the conversation. And the only place that we had agreed to do it was in Corfu. Second, we ended up not getting married, which had nothing to do with us, but and then I decided to travel. And like I said, I was never supposed to come to Greece. It was the cheapest flight on my way to Australia. And I found myself here. And I found myself here. And then I was on this mountain and I was feeling this conflict about leaving and whatnot. And I found this piece that just said, don't go, that didn't make any sense. And then it opened up this year of massive opportunity and this life-changing effect. When I went to Greece, I didn't do any diet or exercise change. I mean, I was hiking a little bit, but I mean, I really wasn't exercising anymore. And I lost 60 pounds in 2 months without trying. So my life, I was impacted by the energy of this place. When I went back to the States and I was donating my 4-bedroom house of things so that I could move here, I found my notebooks from college where I had started learning Greek 15 years ago. I had completely forgotten that I had ever even done this, completely. So I look back and I can see how I was meant to be in Greece 20 years ago. And the breadcrumbs kept finding themselves in my path until I was ready to take them. My goal, I believe in God, God's plan for my life, spirit, energy, universe. My plan was never to get to Bali. But my idea that I was supposed to go to Bali was what was necessary in order for me to actually get to Greece. And as soon as I got here, my soul was like, stop. This is the end. And it took me 10 months to get that. I mean, I started to understand it in April. I was like, wow, maybe I could come here every summer. And by June, I was like, man, like, I really love it here. Like, maybe I could spend a couple of months here every year. And by September, I was completely committed to moving here, even though I had no plan. I had no idea how I would make that happen. But I was clear. I could see the future in a way that I have never understood anything before. And by November, I had created the plan, figured out a way to do it, like organized it, all of the things. And so people ask me, that must have been so difficult for you to make this decision to leave your job and your friends and whatever. And I say to them, when the call and the pull is so strong, it's not difficult. When you're open and when the signs are so strong, it actually is impossible not to do it. It would have been impossible for me to not be here. And I know that I will live here for the rest of my life with 100% certainty. I know that. It's a crazy thing to say. And when people would say things like that to me years ago, I'm like, how could you know the future? And I can still resonate with that thought. And yet the spiritual pull for me to be here, my deep love for this country that makes no logical sense, is precisely the verification of how true I know this to be.
Here's an argument that carries a lot of weight with everything that you just said. It's actually harder for you as a person to be completely happy as you are right now. It's actually harder for you than it was to be in your job back in America, because that uneasy feeling, that unhappiness is where 90% of the people live. It's when you start winning. It's when you start losing the weight. It's when you start just being happy for no fucking reason. That's the harder thing to wrap your mind around, because you have to live in that new comfort.
Yeah.
That sure. and you're waiting for that shoe to drop. You're waiting for you to not love Greece. But like, let's be honest, I travel a bunch. There's certain places do certain things to certain people.
Yeah.
Like when you step off the fucking plane, you're just like, yep, I'm good. Like Lisbon does that to me. Andalusia does that to me in southern Spain, Burgundy. Like they're like, who is this fucking person? So chillaxed and like in the cheese shop for 2 hours. But that's me. I swear to God. Like, but I think that like you have said, like, I made a choice. I am going to deal with the consequences. And now the consequences are just my life, which is fuck yes.
Yeah. I was out with some friends the other night, and we were drinking some Tupelo, which is like an authentic Greek type table aperitif kind of thing. And I was walking. I live pretty close to the center, and the Acropolis is in the center. And I was walking back to the metro, and it was about 2:00 in the morning. So there weren't many people out. It was like a Monday or Tuesday night. And I walked down this brick path in this kind of a touristic neighborhood. And the path opens up, and then the Acropolis is on a hill in front of you, and it's lit up. And I like lost my breath, and I just started crying because of the energy and my gratitude for being here and for what this country means to me and the history. And I have a degree in philosophy. I have an interest in democracy and the beginnings of Western civilization. And I have a deep love for the Greek people and for the Greek culture. That is, I say that my soul is Greek. Even though I have no Greek blood, I can feel this. And I've also traveled a lot, and I've been many places. I've been to Italy and Ireland and Germany and Mexico and whatnot. And I've never even felt this for
you just know. Irish. Like you just know, yeah. Like, I spent 2.5 months in Europe. I've been to like almost every state. Like, it's in that moment that you're like, and here's the scary thing. It's not even the place that you think. Like, right. here's what's here's what's scary. It's like, I went to Barcelona and I was like, I'm good. Like, I went to Madrid. I'm like, no, this doesn't do anything for me. But it's like, I know, like, in my fucking soul, like, me in the Greek Isles, me in like Tuscany, put me on a bicycle and just let me fucking spend the day. Like, that's all day. Like, and it's like, meeting people you that confirm it, right? Because if you are in your element and you're in your soul's on fire, then how many people are you going to affect when your soul's lit up, right? And so if more of us seek that, then what I call the ripple effect of impact would be an amazing world that we live in, when we're out there seeking things that straight up you can't see it because it's right out of frame. Be fearless in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire.
Yeah. Austin, we lie to ourselves so often about what we're capable of. And I don't even necessarily like to frame it that way because it's kind of a judgmental frame, right? And really, we are capable of so much, and we are called for so much. And we have such I look at it as a responsibility, but again, this is a binary term, this responsibility, when really it's this opportunity for us to go beyond what society or the rules of the world say. The rules of the world are bullshit. They're bullshit. Yes. Human connection. I am exceedingly
is the only currency that exists moving forward, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree, and you can never go wrong. You can never go wrong with this.
Okay. Dude, I have to describe to you, because you of all people will get the biggest kick out of this, because I guarantee you that you've been in the same spot that I've been in. I was in Granada, which is my favorite. Anthony Bourdain is like my fucking spirit animal. So like anywhere he goes, I'm in. And we were staying at this 200-year-old home from this English teacher who spent 3 years fixing this thing, 3 stories, courtyard in the middle, like $60 a night, 4-bedroom house, just bread. They put bread on the door in the morning from his wife, like just fucking insane shit. Right. And so he had been to the States when he was like 18, but he was a history teacher. Nobody spoke English. They didn't speak English. And he said, do you want to come to dinner for my wife's birthday in our house? And I was like,
of course.
I was like, does the day end in wine? Fuck yes, let's go. And so he bust out a bottle of whiskey. This is when I was drinking. He bust out a bottle of whiskey from 40 years old, like he had got in the States. And he cooked the pizza on top of their, in-house thing. And I know enough Spanish to be dangerous, but when they're talking, I can't understand it shit. I didn't speak to anybody that night. It was just music and eating and drinking. That night for me was probably one of the best nights I ever had in my life. And we have no idea what we were talking about. None.
Your soul and your heart know.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience last year when I went to Crete, which is an island in the south of Greece. It's the biggest island in Greece. And I ended up being there for 3 months. And I met a farmer one night. I was with someone through couch surfing. I was basically couch surfing or camping for my entire 10 months last year. It was a wild, wild experience. And this guy that I met brought me and 2 of my friends to this farmer. And he owns the side of a mountain and 300 sheep and, this little bed and breakfast and this really amazing restaurant where he just serves whatever he feels that day. So there's no menu. It's like, this is what you're getting, and he spoke 0 English. Well, the 2 of my friends that I was with were both recovering alcoholics. One of them was actually a hitchhiker who I picked up while I was there. And she and I are still friends 2 years later, which is, this was this kind of year. So a friend of mine who was a recovering alcoholic, this hitchhiker who was a recovering alcoholic, and me, Greek culture, you cannot refuse alcohol. It is, especially if you don't speak Greek, they don't understand. They do not understand what alcoholism is. So we're sitting at this table and one of them has been over 2 years sober. And I think the other one had been roughly the same, anywhere from 1 to 4 years. And so this is a big deal, right? If you're a recovering alcoholic, this is a big deal for you to drink after, but it was this massive social pressure. So me being the champ that I am said, I will take 3 for the team. So we did this like Russian, whatever this game is with the cups where they would drop them down and I would drink mine and then take the next. Oh my gosh. By the end of the night, I must have had a full liter of Rocky. And this stuff is like high octane, right?
Yeah.
And I was obliterated, absolutely obliterated, but I was upholding for my friends. And by the end of the night, I was literally communicating with Vasilis. Like we were communicating.
You had tapped in.
He spoke not a word of English. I spoke not a word of Greek. I went back to visit him 2 months later when I was camping. I went camping for 2 months in the wilderness with these 3 guys that I met. It was a blast. And I said, oh my gosh, we're in Kisamos. We're in this area where this guy lives. We have to go see this guy. So I brought them and he opened up his church on his mountain. They have little chapels because they live far away here. So they have little chapels on their property. And we slept in his chapel for a week and we hiked his mountainside. And through this time, one of the guys was Greek. So I was able to communicate with him a little bit more. He invited me to go hunting with him on his property for sheep and learn how to make mazithra cheese and this and that. And I met his wife and his 4 kids. And like, I haven't seen this guy in 1.5 years now, right? Since I left Crete and then I went to all these other countries. Then I moved here and now I'm in Athens. I will tell you, a highlight of my life is that every time I go to Crete, I'm going to go see this guy and his wife and his kids. And these moments, right? Like you were saying, these little lessons, of course, it was kind of a quote about learning lessons in a bad way, but we underestimate the impact that we can have on someone's life without words and without longevity of time. You can connect with someone in an eternal and spiritual way at a single meeting. And society tells us that you have to build it up and, there's social contracts and, you have to do this and get this. And there's the law of reciprocity and this, and that. And when it comes to influence in the business world and whatever, that all has a place. But when you strip this world and this existence from society, money, social agenda, all of these things, cultural norms, whatever, when you strip all of that away, human connection always exists. And it's extremely simple. Come from the heart in an authentic way and be open. And it's magical what happens in those moments.
So anybody that's listening, I'm going to put it in a context they can understand. Tell me why, because I spend most of my life in real estate. Tell me why somebody with a higher offer, better terms, quicker close, I still get deals done.
Someone with a better offer, quicker close, and what was the last thing you said?
And I still win deals. It's because why? Human connection.
Yeah.
Right? Why? The recovery space as a whole is very hard. It's taxing. It's a lot of energy. It's a lot of bad stories. But it all boils down to a couple things. No judgment. Are you in my corner? That's it. So what does that all come back to? Are you humanly connected to my story without any judgment based on the fact that you are just here to listen?
Yeah.
That's it.
And recognition that we're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
This is really, I was talking about this on my Instagram the other day. And I was talking about how I had someone insult me on a platform because I didn't respond quickly enough to a message, right? And my natural human reaction, it's the dating world, right? So, and I train people on how to do this. So, you got to be a good example. So my natural human reaction, because I'm still human, he called me a name. I don't know if I can use an expletive on here.
I cuss 40 times an episode.
Yeah. So he said hey, sexy. I didn't respond because I was I don't really like being called that, but I was I'll figure out how I want to reply to this and then reply later. But a couple hours went by and I didn't reply. So he said, bitch. And
oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Really stirs up the conversation.
But you'd be shocked actually. A lot of dating pickup artists, ones you should not follow, a lot of them actually recommend tactics like this to help to re-engage, because it creates frustration. And so the woman who's not responsive will actually come back to the table. But I mean, this is toxic relationships 101, but this is what men are actually listening to in some cases. So this is why I'm successful in my business. So anyway, I had this moment, the very first moment, where my first reaction was like, what the fuck? Like, come on. And what the fuck actually is, it's offense. It's me choosing to get offended, which is not helpful, not helpful at all. So I'm allowing him to control my energy when I respond that way. Yeah. So then my next thought was like, what the fuck's wrong with him? Judgment. Yeah. So now this is putting me above. I'm a human. Yeah. I'm never above. Yeah. Right. So I had to be like, whoa, nope. So my next thought was, what is wrong with me that I'm attracting men like this? Ooh, so this is like reverse projection, right? Yeah. So I allowed him to make me question myself again, giving my power away. And then, so I had to deconstruct all of these thoughts and ask myself, what is actually true? What is actually and absolutely true? And what's actually and absolutely true, and you know this because we're in a storytelling and narrative program together.
I just had my soul ripped out for an hour and a half. Yeah.
Ooh, I have mine next week.
Oh, yeah. Good luck. You're fucked. Yeah. Dude, I cried for an hour straight and I cried the next day too. But I feel the best I've ever felt. So it's amazeballs. So knowing your story a little bit, it might be a little 3-hour fucking call.
Okay. All right.
But you know what? There's power. It's so funny as you're telling this story and you're working through your different views on it. It was one word. It was one word that provoked 3 different reactions.
Exactly.
That's right. What's insane, right?
Right. Words are powerful.
And so what's crazy, right? With people like that you're talking about, this is a different setting in business because I don't have guys hitting on me yet. But what I'm saying is I give them some space to see how they're going to react again because I want them to put their foot in their mouth. Like, like these sellers on Instagram, they're like, hey, where are you? Like, what the fuck? I'm like, dude, I'm busy as shit. Like, I'll get to you when I get to you. And it's like, you're not going to get me that way. There's no human I'd rather, Seth Godin talks about this. I'd rather build up a following of 10 people that actually care about who I am than 5,000 who couldn't care less.
So I handled it actually a completely different way.
Oh my
goodness. Maybe you'll
I know your personality. I can only imagine how you handled it.
I responded and I said, excuse me. And he said, hi, with 5 eyes. And I said, listen, I'm going to block you now, but I can tell that you're wounded. Oof. And I would hope that you understand that this is not an appropriate way to communicate with anyone, let alone a woman. I can feel your anger, and I hope that you can find some healing.
Oh my gosh.
And he did a 180-degree flip. And I didn't do this as a manipulation tactic because that's not human connection. Mm-hmm. Because me feeding into this is only going to confirm his pain. And it's only going to perpetuate his feeling that the world is against him or that women deserve to be communicated to in this way. And I'm going to give him an example that he can come at me with anger and I can reply with love because that's human connection. But I set the boundary, I'm going to block you because lessons don't get learned unless they're a little painful. So he turned around and said, why? I like you. You're so beautiful. You're superior to man, blah, blah, blah. So I took the opportunity to send him a voice message so that he could really hear my voice and not misinterpret my text. And I said something to the extent of, this is really inappropriate and you should know better. But I'm not saying that you should know better because clearly you were never given the tools. And I hope that you can find the tools so that you can be more successful in your dating life because you've just lost an opportunity. You had asked me out and I had said yes, and we just hadn't found the time yet. You lost an opportunity to go on a date with me, and not that I'm the best thing on the market, but you sabotaged this for no good reason. And, it's not an appropriate way of going. So he says, oh, do you know a good doctor for me? We're back there, right? So I'm like, all right, so now it's getting to the point where I'm just going to go ahead and get ready to block. And I just responded, I said, I have some really great resources that you can look into. And I listed 3 male dating coaches for him that he can look into, because he probably isn't going to be responsive to a woman. And I still want to leave him with something helpful. And he said, maybe they can help me. Thanks so much. And then I blocked him. And the reality is that the natural human reaction is to come back and say, what is wrong with you? Judgment. I'm offended. You're wrong. I'm better than this. Let me tout my value. My value is not in question. Period.
Mm.
And so when you don't feel threatened in family, men, women, relationship, friendship, job, when you understand your intrinsic value, it's very difficult to allow someone to steal your energy or to hijack you. You'll have that moment initially, sure. There's programming that we're always going to be fighting against, right? But there was nothing here that was scary for me. I was dealing with a child, and I don't say that as a judgment. I have tools. I'm psychologically and emotionally healthy for the most part, right? Working on it. But he clearly doesn't have the same tools that I have. So what kind of human connection would I be creating to use my superior tools against a child who doesn't have them? Perpetuating the issue, confirming his behavior, and making it no better off. I'm not in control of him changing. That's up to him. But I'm certainly in control of whether or not I make the situation worse.
Boys and girls, Miss McGuinness here just gave you one of the best lessons in my life. I will take this sentence away for the rest of my life, and I'm going to use it 7 times today already.
Take it.
His actions towards me, my values are not in question here. I want everybody to hear that again. Because when you're getting upset, you're upset because you're saying they don't see the value in me. No, motherfuckers. They don't see the value in themselves. Thank you, Mark England.
Mm.
So my statement was, my dad left me. 4 words sum up 25 years of addiction, 80 pounds overweight, drug use, lost marriage, lost relationships. Change to this sentence. My father left himself.
Mm.
I was done. It innately takes the ability off. I look at it and I'm still digesting all of it. Every man in my life was put up on an imaginary pedestal because I knew they would eventually leave me. But nobody left me. Thank you, because you just confirmed what I already went through on Monday. My value is not in question here, boys and girls. Julieanne's value is not in question here. It's these people who don't know how to handle and process their emotions, who don't value themselves, that is making you feel a way that when you get enough distance from it, you can just look and go, I have compassion for you. I hope you get help, but I'm just going to go do me. Can't beat that.
Yeah. And you know, what's amazing about this process is that when I first started doing this, I'm sure you're familiar with the 4 stages of learning, Austin, you know, unconscious unawareness, which is like you're a loud person and you're not aware you're a loud person and you're disrupting people around you. This used to be me. Then you have conscious unawareness. Someone finally tells you, Julieanne, shut the hell up. You're really loud. I love you, but you give me a headache when you're around me. and you start to catch yourself when you're being loud around other people. You still do it, but you're like, dang it, I'm still being loud. Then you get to conscious awareness, where it's like, okay, I'm not doing it, but I'm aware that that's somewhere I go. So I'm like, before I go into the bar setting, I remind myself, okay, it's going to be loud there. I don't have to be louder. But like, you remind yourself once, and then you kind of stay aware. And then you finally get to the best part, which is the unconscious awareness. Yes. Conscious unawareness. Here we are. Unconscious unawareness. Yes. So this is where it's not an effort for you, right? You've cured the habit because you've worked on it so much. It's become natural for you. So when I started communicating with people in this way, this actually started with my ex, because he was a very gentle, very strong man, but he was a very gentle communicator, very humble in his profession and things like this, but very freaking smart, like smartest man, one of the smartest men I've ever met, maybe the smartest man. And I would watch how people would say wrong things in front of him, and he would help guide them by asking questions. And I was like, why don't you just tell them they're wrong? And he's like, because it's rude. I'm like, what? So, there's so much growth. Right. And so when I started working with people in this way, and I started communicating with men and having to remind myself not to get offended, and to remind myself that, okay, like, this doesn't have to do with me, and my value is not in question here. And, in the beginning, when I would respond, it would be a little bit like, well, my value is not in question, but like, there's a little bit of judgment still there. Whereas like, I know that this is how I'm supposed to feel, but I'm not fully like there. So I'm going to say the right things, but the energy isn't quite matching the meticulously placed words that I'm putting out there. But the super encouraging thing that I want to share is that the more that you do this, the more that your heart will open, and the more that your actions, you can actually, it's better to start with thoughts, words, actions, and go in this direction. But if it's really hard for you to change the programming first, you can change the actions and change inward. It just takes a lot more work. So I, for a long time, was just doing these responses because I knew that they were the right thing to do. And if someone would read my text later, I wanted to be proud of what I put in the text, even if I didn't really mean it. Right. But over time, because the responses, when you don't fight back with someone, things soften. It started to change, and I started to see what was possible for my relationships with other people and for my communication if I could show up, in this non-combative way and really do the things that I knew would actually help them from an emotional perspective. And now, for the most part, I don't have any issue authentically loving in these moments. And even with this one yesterday, there was like a moment where I was like, what the hell? But it was so short. And then I was like, man, like, this guy is hurting. And it was so easy for me to connect. And this is why I love coaching men on dating. A lot of women hate men.
Yep.
I love men.
Yep.
I love them. I can totally empathize with how difficult dating is in today's world. We have, don't be toxic masculine, don't be too masculine, but don't be too feminine, don't be a beta, make sure you're taking control of her, but let her pay if she wants to. I mean, it's contradicting. What are these men supposed to do?
It's like nutrition advice. Nobody knows what to do anymore.
Exactly.
You muddy the waters too much. Yeah.
Right. And so we have good men who are afraid to be manly because they don't want to offend. And then we have men who realize some of the tricks and how to do it, but they're inauthentic, who are making it harder for these men. And then we have men who are good men, but they're trying bad tactics and they're not working. And then they're getting angry. And then we have men who are not confident. They have inner childhood wounding, whatever. So the only way, there's a lot of amazing female dating coaches out there as well. And the best female dating coaches all have one thing in common. We love men. And we're fighting for men to have success. And we want men to be able to live in their life without walking on eggshells, to own their masculinity, to walk into that. All of the best female dating coaches out there all have this in common.
Yeah.
And if you don't love your clients, you won't be successful.
And I think we just talked to one of the best too.
I'm new, but I'm growing. Thank you.
I know, but I can see that you're going to be amazing. So I'm very excited. I know you got a meeting. So if people want to find out about what you're doing, how would they do that? And we'll get you out of here.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I actually was word of mouth only for the last year and a half. I just started, I'm building a website right now. And I have an Instagram. It's Dating with Jules. So DATINGWITHJULES.
My website, branding, marketing, story creation guy lives in Spain. So if you ever want to, he's amazing. He used to be the lead in Circus Soleil for 13 years. He's an amazing human being, ultra runner. So if you
look
need
at this energy,
if you need any advice, he's an amazing human being from Canada. I'm sure he would love to. But guys, I'm so glad I had her on because I know that she taught me something. Super excited to see where this friendship and kind of new relationship goes. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, and I'm going to do a really quick shameless plug. I have a
shameless plug. We love a shameless plug here.
Perfect. I've been working exclusively with men for the last year and a half. And I before 2 months ago, I started working with women as well. Okay. So yes, this is
so here's the deal. I have the girl for you. Okay. Is my friend for 10 years. She is gorgeous, smart as shit, 38 years old, can't seem to find him. Red hair, beautiful, amazing, smart. I've known her for 15 years. And we joke. We joke all the time. She goes, "Do you know what it's like out there right now to date in COVID? It's crazy town." Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. My male program is I've taken what I've done with all of the men that I've worked with for the last year and a half. And I've found the concepts that I've done with every single one of them. Mm-hmm. And so those are kind of like broken down into these modules. And then I have my group coaching, my one-on-one. But what's interesting is that the first 4 to 6 weeks of the program is all identity work. Okay. And so the men come in and they're like, I want to learn how to text women. I've already got
the idea. If you're game. So we have a lifestyle academy in there. We have like 5 to 10 people. It's our first time running a group thing. I would love to have you come speak to the group on how to be in better relationships with their spouses. It would be a huge thing. And there's one of my friends in there who is ready to hit the world. She went through a bad divorce. She's ready, Freddie. So I'm going to introduce you to her. I'm going to introduce you to her too.
Yeah, so. Perfect. Yeah. I mean, honestly, you and I are, I knew from the first time we were on a call together, I was like, this is going to be like,
you know what's crazy, guys, true story. And then we're going to get out of here. Look, I got a crazy story. Jules has a really crazy story. And when somebody's willing to share their crazy story, all I'd send her was, I get it. Like, I was like, we're good. Like, it's like, I see you. Like, thank you for the honesty. Like when somebody does that, when they send that text, you're like, all right, this is my people. Like, yeah. Because in order for you to heal, you have to pull your shit out of the closet. You have to shine a light on it. Yeah. And you can't let it own you anymore. And once it doesn't own you anymore, then you can begin to heal.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's such beauty. I love shadow work. I love it. I mean, anyone who's gone deep into shadow work knows that they'll be like, I hated it in the moment, but I love it now. But shadow work is,
dude. I told Mark about 2 minutes into our call, Mark goes, "You don't want to be here." I go, "No, I don't. I've had a horrible 2 days, and leading up to just fighting with my girlfriend, like all this shit's coming up." And he goes, "You know what winners do? They show up when they don't want to."
Yeah.
And I did, and I'm 90 bajillion times better for it. So if you have a situation, I just read Brene Brown's book, and they did an entire study on that awkward feeling, right? That awkward feeling that you feel. And I've asked 4 of my coaching clients how long they think that awkward feeling lasts. And these are the answers I've got. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Do you want to know the actual response? 8 seconds. Yeah. 8 fucking seconds. So everything that you want is on the other side of those 8 seconds. Lean into that shit.
Nice.
All right. I got to let you go. I know you got a meeting. Jules.
Yeah.
Julieanne, thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
I'll see you soon.
We'll talk soon.
All right. You got it. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.